The March on Blair Mountain. The March on Blair Mountain, I could talk about this forever. This was one of the best actions I've ever been a part of. It began with, for me, with the connections that were made by the people in Appalachia who came up with this idea and made it happen, despite tremendous odds and obstacles. There were 4 demands of the March on Blair Mountain. One was to save Blair Mountain, which is this historic site of this battle 90 years ago between about 10,000 coal miners and a company-sponsored army, coal company-sponsored army, having to do with the struggle of the mine workers to organize a union, their right to have a union. And it's without question a very historic location. It's where this battle took place, pitched battle for 4 or 5 days. And it's slated to be destroyed by mountaintop removal. There's about 5 permits that have actually been granted. They're not about to start doing it yet, but it is, and there's definitely opposition. And in fact, I'm really pleased to report that one of the major newspapers in the state, the Charleston Gazette, when I was on vacation there 2 weeks ago, I picked it up on a Saturday and was amazed to see an editorial which basically came out saying that Blair Mountain should not be destroyed, it should not be MTR'd. So there's some real, and that's really a lot as a result of this March on Blair Mountain, without question, and kind of just the whole political dynamics that got shaken up in the state as a result of this march. So one of the demands was save Blair Mountain. Second demand, stop mountaintop removal, end mountaintop removal. Not kind of regulate it, but end it, stop it, abolish it, no more MTR. A third was support labor rights, support the rights of labor, the Blair struggle connection. And the fourth one was sustainable job creation in Appalachia, right? That if we're going to get off coal, which we have to do, there has to be alternatives. There have to be, there's an economic reality. People need work, people need jobs, communities need to be developed. So, that was a very key demand, that we need to be about job creation in Appalachia to replace the coal industry over time. And those demands and this approach just resonated really tremendously with people in the heart of the coal fields of southwest West Virginia. The organizers went door to door along the 50-mile route of the march that the miners took 90 years ago and that we followed when we did this week-long march. They went door to door, got a good response. There was a little bit of hostility, but very little. Generally, there was either support or kind of like neutrality. And then when we did the march, when we did this week-long march, again, there was definitely opposition, and some of it was really, really vocal and hostile. But there was a lot of support, a lot of people, including, there were coal trucks that went by where the coal truck operators were doing this as they go by us, putting the thumbs up signal. There were people who put, cold drinks out. It was like the high temperatures were in the 90s for the whole week we were doing this march. And there was one day driving back to the place where we were staying. We had to do a whole shuttle operation because the campsites and places we were supposed to stay at night ended up being the last minute withdrawn because of pressure, coal company pressure, basically. So anyway, on one of the days we're driving back, we go past one of these temperature time signs at a bank, and it said 102 degrees. So that's what we were kind of marching through. And so people would put out like drinks for us, cold drinks for us along the route of march, just on the table. So there was a lot of support along this route for what we were doing. So that, to me, that's an example of how, strong action, a willingness to take risks, because the people who put this together, they were very aware of what had happened in the past in terms of MTR activists kind of getting out there in really public demonstrations. About 10 years ago, there was an effort to do actually something similar in terms of this route of march in terms of commemorating the Blair battle. And it was very small. There were only about 15 or 20 people, and they were set upon and beaten, some of them pretty badly. by basically employees of Massey Energy who had been instigated and organized to go do this by Massey Energy. And the state police, like 10 years ago, kind of stood by for a while and just kind of let this happen. Eventually they intervened. So anyway, that was what people were concerned. There was a lot of concern among the longer-term activists in the Appalachian Mountains about this action from that standpoint, that people didn't know what they were getting into. They were really concerned about what was going to happen. But because of the good organizing that had been done, and also because, you know, something about the times they're changing, things are changing, you know, people are more open, you know, they're seeing and the results of all the organizing and the people willing to take all these risks over the years. It ended up being a very incredibly successful action.